Hello everyone, this video probably won't be very long unless I start to ramble, which is probably more than likely, so disregard that comment. Today's video is going to be about emotions and how I interpret them, and I guess how I try to interpret them, because having Asperger syndrome, I don't really interpret emotions the same way that normal people do. Um, I mentioned in a previous video that I really didn't think I had any problems with understanding complex ideas, and that I don't think too literally, but after thinking about that a bit, maybe I interpreted that statement too literally. So I began to think of examples where I have interpreted things too literally, in the sense that I wasn't aware of the emotional context. And I can go further by saying that I can understand pretty complex ideas with regards to philosophy and psychology, but not in a practical emotional setting, I guess. Like, I could run down a list of emotions on paper and identify them easily, but I have trouble actually applying that knowledge to real-life situations. Like, I guess it's just the way I interpret things. I interpret things in a logical, concrete manner, and I guess that's what they meant by literal thinking. Uh, I can understand them, but I can't really grasp them in a practical setting. Um, yeah, like I said, I use logic a lot of times when I make decisions, but I don't always grasp the implications of it. And an example of that uh, could be just maybe doing risky things, with people without really understanding how it might affect them emotionally. I might do something because it makes logical sense, it's not hurting anyone at the time, but I won't realize that what I do can have emotional consequences in other people. And, I guess a better example of this would be times when I end up speaking my mind. I do have quite a bit of an opinion. I can be outspoken in that regard. Most of the time I'm pretty introverted, but, when people ask for my opinion, I give it to them, whether it's something they want to hear or not. And in that sense, you know, I tend to be unfiltered, and, that can hurt people's feelings, or that can, lead people to feel uncomfortable, and I don't understand why they're uncomfortable, because it's the truth. It's, I don't want to lie, and, I don't believe in, BSing people just because, it might make them feel bad. you know, then I myself would feel bad because I'd be lying. So, it's kind of a two-edged sword, I don't know what to do in that situation, other than speak what I feel to be the truth. Um, Going back to the more literal thinking and literal, I guess, interpretations of things, one example that I thought of was the day that I actually got diagnosed with Asperger's. Um, my mom was in the room, and the psychologist was just asking me questions about myself, and at one point she asked if I did drugs, and I said yes, and she kind of stopped, and my mom looked at me, with a shocked look on her face, And I said, what? And what I was thinking of was, caffeine, things of that nature. I drink a lot of caffeine, and to me that's a drug. She didn't specify that she meant illegal drugs, but there are other drugs that people consume that are, you know, perfectly legal, but they are drugs nonetheless. So I guess that would be just an example of me not really understanding, I guess, the context of that, thinking too much in a concrete, strictly logical sense. Um, Another example, and I'll probably end with this, this is kind of embarrassing, is something that happened to me in childhood, but I think it applies. Um, you might not think it applies, but you can make your own decisions. This happened to me in church when I was, I forget how old, I was very young, but I was in my church, and it was some kind of children's group, and there were, tons of children and some parents in there too, and we were talking about sin and what sin is, and examples of things that are sinful. And I raised my hand, and uh, the youth leader, I forgot, I don't even know who it was, but he asked me, okay, give us an example of sin, and I said, sin is butt kicking, and people all gasped, and immediately, the woman behind me hit me and, said, what's the matter with you? Why would you say something like that? I was thinking the act of going up behind somebody and kicking them in the butt. Um, that to me is a perfect example of sin, I would say. But the way they interpreted it was me saying something like sin kicks ass or something like that. And I was thinking very literal, very concrete, and I apparently was the only one that was thinking that way. Um, so yeah, embarrassing, but I think it works as an example. Um, and like I said, I'm not Amelia Bedelia, if anyone remembers those books, who just interprets everything completely literally. Like, if somebody says, let's go hit the road, I don't take a stick and start hitting the road. I I understand expressions, and that just comes with learning them and being taught. But there are still instances when it comes to, you know, emotions that I just can't grasp, and I think that is because I have Asperger syndrome. And, I sometimes say things or do things that might offend people or that might leave people scratching their heads, and I just don't get why they would do a thing like that, because to me it makes perfect sense. So, I guess that's everything. I just wanted to briefly touch on that. Sorry I can't really go into a whole lot of detail on it, because it is something that I'm still discovering about myself, and I'm still in the process of trying to interpret emotions appropriately. Um, but if I do receive any more insights, or, you know, come up with any ideas to elaborate on this, I'll post up another video. But in the meantime, thanks for watching.